History Podcast, bringing the brilliant and sometimes strange minds, methods, and ideas from the sales profession's past with applications to today. Here is your host, best-selling author of The Transparency Sale and The Transparent Sales Leader, keynote speaker, trainer, and nerd, Todd Caponi.
If you've been following along the Sales History Podcast this long, and as you pull it up on Apple, iTunes, or Spotify, you might see that there's an image associated with it. The Sales History Podcast, Todd Caponi, and then there's 5 pictures of individuals on there. Now, there's 3 men, Arthur Sheldon, who you know, you've been listening along, who I believe is the GOAT of sales philosophers of all time and did so much for pioneering the training world that we all are supported by in the sales profession. There's an individual on the bottom left is Worthington C. Holman, who is one of the great writers, great philosophers on sales, did so much, and I just love to follow him. And then bottom right is John Patterson, who really was the foundation layer from a business perspective in pretty much all we do in the sales profession, from dedicated territories to actually hiring and training salespeople, establishing a sales education school within NCR Corporation, variable comp. He was the first one to do sales kickoffs. I've done episodes about him. The guy is amazing. But there's also 2 women on the image. In the bottom middle, there is somebody named Lucinda Prince. Lucinda, I believe, is the pioneer for women in sales. She set up schools for women in 1905, brought the curriculum to colleges and even high schools by the 1910s, and was one of the most sought-after teachers and speakers on the subject through the 1920s. But today, I want to talk about the individual that's in the top right. Her name is Barbara Pletcher. And in 1979, a columnist doing research for an article and attempting to find a trade association for women in sales came across Barbara, as Barbara had written a book in 1978 called Saleswomen, A Guide to Career Success. Now, when she was looking for a trade association, Barbara's response to her was, "Nothing like that exists." But that conversation inspired Barbara. She had worked in sales most of her adult life and also as a college professor, studying sales from the marketing lens. She noticed a severe lack of women in the sales profession. Again, this was the 1970s, where the profession had come through an era where sales was really considered gross. Now, you combine that with the realization that most successful corporate executives have a sales background, and she believed there was even a bigger problem for women in the workplace. If women are going to play a big role in corporate management and the boardroom, the investment starts with sales. Barbara also realized that traditionally, women hadn't seen sales in this way, that the women she taught in college, quote, saw sales as the road to dissolution, not corporate success. She went on to say, quote, 1 student out of every 17 was interested in sales. Everyone else wanted market research. To her, this interest was one of the professional women's biggest mistakes. Women took jobs where they could be a specialist, where there's job security, instead of the generalist type of less secure work found in sales. In June of 1980, she arranged a meeting of saleswomen under the name National Association of Professional Saleswomen. 198 women showed up. And by the end of the meeting, 154 of those 198 signed up to be annual members. Within 1 year, the association had 3,000 members and 22 regional offices. The NAPS charter was, quote, to promote women in selling through affiliation, education, and professionalism. She designed NAPS to combat the prevailing viewpoint and myth of the sales profession for women, as sales, quote, paves the way for women's success in the business world. So On a monthly basis, NAPS published a 12-page newsletter updating members on developments in the field, suggesting books to read, and basically provide guidance that they likely couldn't get anywhere else. Regular seminars teaching members everything from, quote, upgrading one's sales skills to taking a male customer to lunch. Monthly meetings provided much of the affiliation, although Pletcher didn't believe that formal networking should be a part of the program. She felt the need to ensure NAPS wasn't viewed as the path to, quote, whisking employees away from their employers. Their first annual convention took place in June of 1981 in Sacramento, California, followed by additional events that were to take place in Palo Alto, Atlanta, Houston, and New York. At the time, membership cost $36 a year, but she also offered an associate membership for just $18 per year. This was for individuals who weren't in sales yet. Barbara saw that many nurses and teachers were brilliant and had great communication skills, but had a negative perspective of the sales profession. This was their introduction and their way in. She said, quote, we're saying to the world, we're tired of apologizing for being in sales. Now, since I found her story, I've been trying to track down additional pieces. I find no other records of NAPS as an organization and believe Barbara A. Pletcher is still around somewhere, and I'd love to speak to her if you know how to get a hold of her. Now, I don't write these stories and talk about these as podcast episodes just to pander. I truly believe that I got lucky early in my career. My first sales manager in the tech space was a woman named Sue Hatton. She gave me my foundation of sales done right. Her boss's boss was Deborah Eberlin Rosen, who also embodied that lens. Throughout my career, I worked for amazing women sales leaders, and even today, one of my best buds also serves as an accidental mentor. Samantha McKenna, that you might know from Sam Sales Consulting and Sam Sales fame, I believe she embodies sales done right through her organization. And she's helped me in my own business more than she even realizes. So why bother studying history at all? Well, it's easy to see that history doesn't stay behind us. The individuals and lessons from the past help us avoid past mistakes and even predict the future. It's my hope that we can illuminate these pioneers, but also learn from these stories to ensure we aren't still talking about this issue in another 50 years, as we still are today. So that's today's episode. A little bit of a quicker one, but Barbara Pletcher is somebody that I think you should know. If you want to learn more about Lucinda Prince, I've done a full episode on her. Her story is incredible, how she outsold organizations' own salespeople in order to build credibility and provide that oomph to get those companies to send their individuals to her training classes. Her story is amazing, but there's people like Barbara Pletcher out there that we've just kind of forgotten about, that have put together these organizations that we see again today. And I hope that you're able to learn from this and continue to highlight individuals like her. So until next time, I hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, if you'd like to follow along, you know I do post week daily at Sales Historian on both Instagram and X, quotes, pictures, news clippings, all kinds of stuff from sales histories past that I hope you get a lot of value from as well. All right, so thanks again for listening.